welcome back to my channel. And today, well, I just finished a rant video. I would have put that up immediately after because I was getting problems with that thing. If you like, you can check it out. It's already up because as soon as I was finished with it, I put it up. But my intention today was actually to do a face-on video where I show you how I store my alcohol-based markers. Now I have it right here in front of me, and basically I'm using the Cali Art markers, these markers here, as how to show you guys how I do storage of them because they're all stored the same way using the same concept. Okay, so I've now switched you down to this view where you can actually see what I'm talking about. I don't necessarily think I need top-down view because this is kind of like top-down view, but you don't necessarily get to see me like this. Okay, I was doing some work. Like I said, I do a lot of drawing off camera. So I was doing this and I got into this whole thing here. It was inspired by Jazza. And he have this thing where he's just doing some emoji prompts and trying to use the emojis as inspiration to do their art. So I decided kind of like steal that in some sense and use the emojis to redraw that emoji in my style of drawing, which I did. And the emoji prompt that randomly popped up was a tiger, so I just redrew the little tiger in my style. The emoji website I'm using is, and I should link it here, I think it's arch.org emoji. I will link the address that I use. So if you guys like to do some random emojis prompts, you can do that too. Now let's get into this video. Okay, so these are the Cali Art markers. I've had these since 2018, 19 thereabout. And so these were some of the first set of alcohol-based markers I got. This is actually an 80 set. Or is this a 100 set? I think this is the 100 set of markers. I need to double check that because I did not, normally what I do now that when I do swatches, I like to put the amount of markers on the swatch so I know how much is in there, but I believe this is the 100 set of markers because I have a 80 set of Ahuhu markers, and this is a little bigger than that. So this is the 100 set of the Cali Art, and like the Ahuhu's, it comes in its little pouch. Let me bring you guys up just a tad. Yeah, it comes in a little pouch here with a little zipper. This is made from some kind of like black canvasy material. Now this is not a review on this product, and it has like this plastic insert. Now how I normally, I think one of my neighbors are passing. How I normally store my markers is that in these patch bags, even in the Ahuhu bags, what I did is I actually put in dividers in it, and dividers is just basic cardboard. This is actually a cereal box. And it's just a basic cardboard that insert that I put in here to kind of ensure that they are divided. And I rearrange them into color families, greens, the browns and yellows, the reds, the blues, and the grays. So they're all arranged in color families. And with the dividers, it kind of, little prep dividers, it kind of leaves everything in its place. So when I swatch them out, I swatch them out in according to how they're arranged in here. Okay? These Cali Art markers, this is not a review of these because I've done the review of these before. These are actually, they have like a fine point. You see that? You see the fine point there? Yes. And they have a chisel nib. Okay, now there is a brush nib version of these markers. Unfortunately, I don't have them, and I'm not thinking of getting them anytime soon, maybe sometime later on in my art journey. The markers that are stored a little differently than these are the Copics, and that's because I actually bought a Copic bag for a Copic bag now, a marker carrying bag for those, and I have those arranged in there. So they don't need dividers and separation, and because they have the little elastic bands. But these one, I keep them in the original casing, and I just use butter to keep them still, so they're not bunched up in here, they're not all wrangled up in here. they're kept nicely organized and safe. Now, normally how I store my markers is I store them in their bags in this position. Let me go down a little bit for you guys so you can see what's going on down there. In this position. This is how I normally store it. So they're normally stored horizontally in their pouch. Of course, this is closed up like this, and they're placed on a shelf. And they're placed on a shelf like this. When I need to use them, I will open it up, and then I will fold this under a couple times, and then I will place this in front of me like this. And you see how nice and neat it allows it to look? Yeah. Okay. Now, there is a specific reason, because you have to store your markers in horizontal position. So basically, you have to have your markers lying down. That's the first thing. Okay? How I normally store my markers is that I will have them in this position lying down. And let me switch this over so you guys can get a better picture of this part. I will have the fine point side facing inward. So basically, my fine point side of my markers will be towards the bottom of its storage bag or unit. The storage bag, it will be on the bottom, so it will be faced inward, and the chisel tip will be the one that is faced outward. The reason why I do this is because it is recommended. One of the recommendations that all markers company tell us to do is to store our markers horizontally. And the rationale they give is for these markers to remain juicy and vibrant longer. So if you should store it vertically, like standing up, like this side here, you store it this side. So, sorry, what will happen is that the ink within the marker is going to flow downward to one side. Okay, so you won't have any ink on the opposite end. So to keep the ink flowing, you keep them horizontally. The reason why I store it with the fine point side, okay, this side is a fine point, inward, is because I notice with my markers, when I have them, even though I have them stored horizontally, if I should have this side stored inwards, the fine point side, this side here, goes drier faster, and all the ink is towards this end. So this side remains juicy while this side remains dry, starting to dry out. When I store it with the fine point side inward, I notice that even though here remains juicy, because the broad end or the chisel end of the marker produces the most ink, this side remains juicy, and also this side remains juicy. I just noticed that. So when I started to notice that, I said, you know what? I think it's a good practice for me to start doing that. And I noticed that with the first set of hoo-hoos that I got, even though I got some of them that was pretty dry, when others started to dry out, I noticed that it was because a lot of them, the chisel end was stored inward and the fine point end was stored upward. So just to keep the juice flowing in my markers, I would normally store my markers in this aspect. I'm eating and videotaping at the same time. So, gosh, that WW thing is still on my mind. And I was like, oh yeah, it's not disrespect, and is in this aspect I wanted to say. But yeah, that's basically how I store my markers. There is a system to it. Coloring pencils is a little different. I will store those with the pointed end upward, and they're all stored in the horizontal position. I think the only markers that I store vertically is the Karen Brush Pro markers, because according to the company, they ask us to store those markers in that aspect, because it says it doesn't allow the markers to leak out of the nib, I believe. So we store them vertically with the nib side up. And all in all, guys, thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Thank you so much for all your support. And I do wish for you guys to stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.